Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. As New Black Media Appreciation Month continues, we need to give mention to one trait that I think has helped to cement our credibility with you more than any other: steadfastness. In fact, that's the principal trait that binds all of us together. That's why we keep coming to places like this, in order to exchange ideas with one another and to receive encouragement, because we know that nobody's gonna cut and run. Yes, we have been giving you the same message 15 years running, because when you're at war, you don't stop reporting enemy troop movements or putting out morale-boosting messages until the war is won. And we aren't there. Yet. One of, if not the biggest internal problem that we as black people have is that we are consistently inconsistent. And if you want to know whether or not somebody is actually going to achieve whatever it is that they claim to want, just look and see what their track record is when it comes to sticking it out for the long haul. You'll notice that none of the lifers, none of the people who you know and trust like myself, Tariq, Lisa Cabrera, Your World, Tarian Rain, or others, we haven't been trying to figure out how to use you in order to finesse a come-up for ourselves. We've remained faithful. And while some people may be tempted to take that particular trait for granted, especially around the B1, I'll tell you right now, it's actually more rare than you might think. Some of these other people who are out there, they haven't been trying to build black empowerment at all. What they've been trying to do is to build a hustle for themselves. These are some of the dead-enders who came out of all that nonsense that was going on before the black media established itself on the scene. But there's also been some bad actors from outside the community who also need to be pointed out, and the reason why is it matters who you get your news and views from. The Young Turks, they went full CNN and they've been running hard to the right. Now, you can be disgusted at this, but you can't be surprised. Cenk Uygur is a conservative, just like the late Ed Schultz. And like Ed Schultz, Cenk Uygur tried to find room in the white right-wing space, but it was oversaturated. So he had to get in where he fit in. And that's why 20 years ago he became a left-of-center commentator, or at least those were the positions that he claimed to espouse. But every so often he would let the mask slip. And that Anna woman that he likes to pal around with, she also did that even more so. But recently, things must not be so good over there at their shop, because he and that rancid harpy he sits next to have been pivoting to the same talking points as the white right. And while they're not going full Fox News yet, they're also being just overt enough with it that it's clear what they're trying to do. They want to expand their viewership, and to make themselves more agreeable to casual racists, read white moderates. Some people may be shocked by this development, dismayed and what have you, but as the black media, we're not surprised at all. We've been talking about the Young Turks for many years, about how the Young Turks have been tiptoeing their way towards this, the way that they had thrown shade at the black community by proxy over the years. Also, how there happen to be a number of right-wingers and racists and such that you don't really see them going in on. You see, all too often, whenever somebody says what seem to be the right things, especially if they say it passionately, and especially if they say it often, people will tend to miss when they also slide in some of this other stuff that they wouldn't necessarily agree with, or they'll be willing to forgive it, until eventually they wake up one morning and find that the Young Turks have been running hard to the right. And by the way, the similar dynamic also works for a lot of these bootlicking Negroes that you see the white media trot out. People like Roly-Poly Martin, and the three cast-offs from CNN, Tiffany Cross and those other two has-beens. They're huge cheerleaders for the white media when they're working for them. And they continue to toe the line. They make it very clear, oh, what do you mean bias? What do you mean ignoring black people? Not over here, why? I can tell you I'm in the room and I'm looking out for our interests, etc., etc. Oh yeah, that's how they're talking until their white paymasters give them that pink slip. And then all of a sudden, they start to try to talk like us. They try, because none of them can get it right. They're doing this asinine little impersonation of theirs, what they think we sound like, what we sound like to them, for people who don't really even pay attention to what it is that we say. You want to find out what somebody truly believes, offer them a paycheck, particularly a large one, and then take it away. And they'll show you exactly what they stand for. As the black media, we don't run, not from white supremacy, and not from the positions we've espoused over the years either. And remember, when I say the black media, that means you. So many folks out there, not just in media, but in life in general, they try to get in good with whomever they think is going to take care of them. But when that gravy train derails, or they think they found a faster money train, that's when they try to pivot. I'm sure you've noticed that a number of the would-be online black conservatives have been trying to change their tune on the sneak. They've been toning down some of their more strident talking points. Some of them dropped the white right-wing talking points altogether. Others have been more subtle about it. But you notice that more than a few of them have been trying to do that. All of a sudden, they haven't been doing their best Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity impersonation. Now, apparently, they want to be more nuanced. Now, of course, these people have absolutely no principles. That's the reason why you have a black man who's claiming that he's a conservative. But as Dr. John Henrik Clarke said, what is any black person in America trying to conserve? We know what the real reason is. It's one thing and one thing only. They didn't get that Fox News or AM talk radio gig that they were auditioning for, because that's what they're all doing. They're all auditioning to see if somebody on the white right is going to notice them and give them some sort of job. Maybe you can be a panelist on one of these stupid little shows of theirs, or maybe they can bring you in to be a special contributor, or, heavens to Betsy, they might even give you a show. Hell, the white right doesn't even like the Negroes who it already has around it now. Just ask Alan Keyes or Larry Elder about that. It wasn't the Democrats who cut those chumps off at the knees. It was their own Republican buddies who did it to them. But of course, there's no cure for stupid, so they didn't learn anything about it. They went all in, didn't they? Well, we don't. The Young Turks have been around for about 20 years or so, ever since Air America. Now, 20 years is a long time, admittedly. People thought that these guys were rock solid. And at least on the surface, it seemed like Jank and his buddies were saying the right things. But the truth of the matter is, when you listen to what they say, aside from the fiery anti-Republican talking points, you notice that there's all kinds of problems with their rhetoric. But when you've been out here for like 2 decades or so, people might find it a little bit difficult to pick up on the stress fractures and realize, hold on, this guy just said some mess here that doesn't make any sense, or it's not philosophically consistent with the other things that they've said. See, this is what the black media knows about these guys. People thought that they were rock solid, but as I've told you, it's far easier for somebody to pull the wool over your eyes when they can get you to pull the wool for them. And in Jank's case, he's been trying to find some way to get his toe in the door of America's political circles. I think he's run for office at least a couple of times. What is he thinking? Maybe he's thinking that he'll be the next Al Franken. Al Franken was also part of Air America too. And like Jank, Al Franken had his radio show. And Al Franken also made it to the U.S. Senate, albeit briefly. And I guess Cenk Uger's going, hey, if Al can do it, so can I. We all know that the corporate white media is crooked as a $3 bill. If you want to be even minimally informed, you might as well check out some foreign news sources, something outside the United States, where they at least tell the truth about America some of the time. I myself do have some measure of respect for a small handful of alternative news commentators, and some of them have been very insightful, but I gotta be honest here. Too many of them are on that class-based struggle nonsense, and that's irrelevant to black people. If you want alternative points of view, that's your prerogative, but understand that Cenk Uygur and company are trying to make their little operation as profitable as possible. That's been the goal from the very beginning. So yeah, they're going to go ahead and alter their message or curate what it is that they do, as long as they think that it's going to be bringing in more revenue for them in the form of more viewers, listeners, or perhaps some angel investors are going to come in and give these guys millions of dollars. Wouldn't be the first time. But as the black media, as the mouthpieces for the portion of black America that's actually got its head on straight, we can't operate like that. Look, nobody, and I mean no freaking body, ever got rich being an advocate for black empowerment. Now, if you want to go ahead and do some half-brain hustle, like if you want to be one of those preacher men, you can go ahead and do that. Dr. King was a man of the cloth, but he wasn't one of those preacher man hustlers, and the same thing went for Malcolm. The people who do this, I mean for real, do this black media thing, the people who are in it for the long haul, they do it because they believe in it. They do it because they got tired of waiting for somebody else to do it. And we also saw that people were being led astray by charlatans and fools just as bad as the Kundalini energy crowd. That's the core of black empowerment. We're self-starters. You don't need to ask if you're on code. You know what off-code is. You don't have to ask, what if I'm the only one in my area? When you show that you're on a mission, you'll find that other people will gravitate towards you because they've been waiting for someone else to step across that line. To do this, to be an advocate for black empowerment, you have to have patience. That's an absolute requirement. 15 plus years that I've been making these videos. You think I believe in shortcuts to what I do? There aren't any. There's no instant gratification, not if you're talking about taking control of the social discourse within the black community. That takes time. So the point of this morning's briefing is to remind you it matters who you get your news and views from. People who talk a good game only to inevitably break bad on you, they're not giving you information and they never were. They've always just given you misinformation. And the Young Turks, like the rest of the white media, like TMZ, like Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, etc., the Young Turks made sure to have a black person on camera around them. Keep a black person or two around just for some presence. Hey, they also got some other black folks connected to their network. To build confidence with the people and throw discerning viewers off their scent, that's the kind of stuff that they do. And no, I'm not throwing shade or any sort of innuendo at any of the black people who have been associated with the Young Turks, some who have left, by the way. But the point that I'm making is there's a reality there. Sure, they may have wanted some black folks who did have some talent and who were interesting and who could perhaps draw and accumulate to their following. But at the end of the day, as far as they're concerned, this is not about black people. This is all about how they can improve their own bottom line. And you, my family and fellow travelers, you need actual information and analysis given to you by people who don't have one eye on you to see if you're going to be bringing somebody else with you and they got the other eye on their bottom line. You need somebody who's got both eyes on the ball. So for the folks who are just now recognizing what it is that the Young Turks have been up to, and they're seeing some of this rhetoric, seeing some of these videos they've been putting out, they've been doing this mess for years. Sure, in the past, they weren't quite so overt about it, but they were going to get here eventually. This was all part of the plan. And if you just so happen to be one of the black people who actually did think that the Young Turks were on the side of the angels, I don't want you to beat yourself up too much. I don't want you to feel too guilty or feel too foolish. Just understand that whenever you're listening to anyone who's telling you anything, and that also includes the new voices of black media, you have to go a hell of a lot deeper than just listening to whatever it is they seem to be saying on the surface, or you heard them say a number of things that you agree with and you like, and as far as you're concerned, okay, we can trust these guys on everything. You have to listen to all of the things that they're saying. You have to take stock of all of the positions that these guys are expressing. Now, when you look at them in their totality like that, that's when you start to notice the inconsistencies, and you'll also recognize the statements that were made that didn't make any actual sense, especially when you look at the rest of their allegedly left-wing positions and rhetoric. So when you have these other people out here who some of you might listen to because the algorithm promotes them, just keep in mind, what they say may initially sound very good, but if you're not taking total stock of everything that they're saying, then you're not paying attention. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Shrampstein, Divine Lady, Lawrence Shaver, Rose Arnold, and Amir Miller. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.